What's up, you guys? Today we're in a 2016 Miata RF, and in my opinion, this is the most beautiful Miata ever made. It's a hardtop convertible, believe it or not, and it's really hard to tell without seeing the top go down. When the top goes down, it's a really cool sequence, and when you bring this to a car event, everybody just wants to see it go up and down a million times because it looks like a freaking transformer. It's kind of like a neat feature. You just hold down the button, does it all by itself. Another really cool thing about it is the back window, when you put the top down, completely basically disappears and you can't put it back up and down. It's part of the mechanism itself. When the hardtop is up though, this feels like a Miata Coupe for sure. And it actually, a lot of times, gets mistaken as a Jaguar. A lot of people go up to the owner of this car named Alex and go, "Oh, nice Jaguar." And he's like, "It's not a Jaguar, it's just a Miata." He is a Miata enthusiast. He has an NA as well, and he's gone through like 5 different Miatas. But this one is just so refined, but at the same time, it still feels like a Miata. And I think that's really important because a lot of modern manufacturers have lost their way when it comes to driver feel. It has an amazing shifter, really easy gauges to read, and everything else in the interior is just driver focused, and that's all you need. I love how the door panels is like the same color as the rest of the car. I don't know, there's just something about that. And along with the actual color of this car, I think it's really interesting. It's like this almost battleship gray. I don't know the actual proper term for it. Another thing about the new ND, this is the first Miata ND I've ever driven, is that it's almost the same weight as the NA. It depends on what spec of the new ND that you get, but overall it's very close in weight to the first generation Miata, which is amazing for a modern car. Usually you have to worry about all the airbags and the safety features and the bigger A-pillars and the nicer interior and everything, but it still has really good light driver feel. The steering is so direct and there's nothing to complain about. And when you're cruising just in like 6th gear, it's nice and quiet. You just get a little bit of wind noise and that's it. Also comes stock with BBS wheels and also nice Brembo brakes in the front. It stops on a dime. Earlier I was driving to the road and there's a person in front of me and he just nailed the brakes all out of nowhere, and then I got on the brakes, no big deal, wasn't even an issue. As always, Miatas are momentum-based cars, and once you get the momentum in a Miata, you become kind of a track king if you know what you're doing. It's so easy. Just the balance is so nice. So the motor in this is a 2-liter, and it kind of looks just like a modern SR20 when you pop the hood. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I can't even talk, it's so good. People always wonder why people freak out about Miatas when they drive it on a back road, but it's honestly one of those things that you just have to drive it. With the weight, with the distribution, and the motor up front, the motor makes 155 horsepower and around 150 foot-pounds of torque. So you have a very even, very linear power band. And when you carry your speed through all the corners, it's so controllable that you can almost mat it all the way through, or mat it if the corner's a long sweeper enough. Honestly, the car overall is comfortable, but it's not as roomy as, say, the first generation NA. But I'm like 5'8", 5'9", so I fit almost perfect in this car. So another thing too is you're having all this fun, but you're still getting 30 miles to the gallon for the most part. Right now I'm getting like, I think it says 10, no, 13. Okay, I wonder what happens if I just kind of go down. Let's see what happens. 14, 7. Okay, there we go. But overall, if you're cruising on the highway, you're gonna get around 30 miles to the gallon. That's amazing. I love how modern engines have learned to distribute fuel delivery and everything in order to achieve these things. So the combustion motor, it's still got it. It really has. It's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. And especially in this car, it feels right at home. This is 4th gear, and we're still getting torque in a Miata. That's fantastic. Usually in like a first generation NA, you're gonna have to shift constantly, but with this, it's so linear, you just kind of push through. I could go to a lower gear if I wanted to be more aggressive, but it's just so smooth. It's amazing. The clutch in this car is extremely easy. When I first got in it, I just barely let off the clutch and it already started crawling. So a lot of people, when they learn how to drive stick, they're like, hey, what kind of car do I learn how to drive stick in? I always say either a Civic or a Miata because the clutch is so forgiving in these cars. And with the extra little bit of torque, it's great. But a lot of people out there are gonna say, oh, but it's only 155 horsepower. It's only, that much torque. but this thing is just zippy. Like, that's the best adjective for it, because once you get it going, once you start revving it out some, this car only has 700 miles on it, so it's not completely broken in, so we're not gonna get torch rev limiter, but you don't need to do that in order to still have fun. Just like, it's so weird, because even when I'm kind of revving it out for the most part, it's still a very quiet and comfortable experience. It's not like you have crazy things going around, but there is something about an older car, I do understand, if you wanted just everything to feel fast. So another thing too in this car is on the gauge cluster and the tachometer, which is dead center in the middle, which always tells you what a car company wants you to do with your car, is that it has a gear suggester. Basically, it says you're in 4th, but we think you should be, right now it says in 6th. So at the cruising speed I'm in, to get the best gas mileage, it says go to 6th gear. So smooth, and there's just no drama, zero. I can imagine if I had this thing on a track, I'd be dangerous. Like, I'd have so much confidence in it that it'd be almost unhealthy. And that's why Miata drivers hold so many records around the world, is because of the confidence a Miata gives you. The visibility is really nice because this hood like concaves in. So when you're looking out front, you think that this kind of fender over here, fender over there would kind of get in the way and to know where you're going, but it's almost like the miniature Corvette in a way, because you have these big hunches over the fenders. So, but then it cuts right down, and then it's just, you know exactly where your hood is, and you know exactly where you're going. Also, I just like to add that the Indy Miata, when I first saw it, I thought was possibly the best looking Miata for a long time. I love the headlights in this car. I love the grille in this car. I love everything about it. I think it's really aggressive looking, and it kind of gave the Miata some masculinity, I think. And not that I'm saying the other ones were bad, I just think this one is a lot more almost manly with its mean taillights and everything. The soft tops are still awesome, but this hard top, I just am in love with how this thing looks. Like, when I was doing the shots of this car, I could not stop staring at it, and what's better than that? What's also nice when you go around a corner or a bend is that there's virtually zero body roll. It's because it's one thing, the car is light, and there's not enough light cars anymore. Think about it, in the industry, you're lucky if your car is, if it's a performance car, you're lucky if your car is under 3,000 pounds. If this was 1990, 3,000 pounds would be a joke in the performance industry. It'd be like, why is it that heavy? You don't need it to be that heavy. A lot of modern cars now are adding more horsepower, but they're just adding so much more weight by doing that. And there's some big elephants in the industry, like the Hellcat and things like that. It's like, yeah, sure, you got 700 horsepower, but can't really go anywhere. I totally see why so many people were excited about this car, because if I lived near a mountain road, I would be in heaven. It just dwarfs speed everywhere you go. Like 4th gear, the bump, soaked it. Brake, downshift, and here's a stop. Easy. It's just funny because I hear a little bit of wind noise and then just a nice little rumble from the engine. Bump. Wow. This thing is fantastic. And it's bone stock. That's the best part. Suspension stock, everything stock. What's funny, guys, is when I review cars, if a car is really good, you almost have less to say about it. So it's like, once you get it out there that you're like, you're really enjoying the car and it's balanced and it's good, I have literally no gripes with this car. I mean, you could say that it needs more power, but for the first time in my life, I really don't think this car needs more power. I think it's just fine. If I was on a track, I'd be a lot more confident at this power level than I would be at 200 or 300 horsepower. But I still get why people take the NA and engine swap them, because that's just fun. Alex is actually working on an Ecotech swap in his NA, which is really intriguing to me. So that'll make a little over 200 horsepower. So it'll be interesting to see how the old chassis handles that compared to like this new chassis with, you know, nearly 200 horsepower. Mazda has this like mentality of, with a Mazda, you become one with the car. And I think that's the same with the RX-8, even the NC Miata, which was very similar to the RX-8's platform. But this car, when you go around a corner and you just feel everything. You have such good feedback that you feel it in the steering wheel, you feel it in your butt, you feel it everywhere, and you literally become one with it. And so when you go around that corner, like I said earlier, it's almost like a four-wheeled motorcycle. Like, you're just so one with it, and you're confident, and it gives you that confidence. All right, guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this quick little review video of the Miata RF. I had a fantastic time, and this is by far, I think, my favorite Miata I've ever driven, just with the hard top and how it handles and everything. What do you guys think about the new Indy Miata in general? Do you like it, or do you still want to stick with the NA? And I'll see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a fantastic day. Woo.